Hello and welcome to the Flix Forum podcast, where each episode we usually go back and look at a Netflix original film in the order of release, but today we have a special bonus episode where we're looking at Netflix's 2025 apocalyptic political thriller called A House of Dynamite. This one's directed by Kathryn Bigelow and stars Idris Elba, Rebecca Ferguson, Gabriel Basson, Harris and Tracy Letts. I'm Jesse, I'm your host. Thank you for joining me here today for this special bonus episode. As always, if this is a film you haven't seen yet and you're interested in checking it out, give us a pause and come back a little bit later on because we will spoil the show the film as we go throughout this show. This is going to be a bit of a tricky one. I feel a little bit all over the shop with this one. I'm not sure why, and maybe it's because of the intensity that I felt throughout the film and the structure of the film, which we'll talk about as we go. So other than that, let's work out how this one ended up on Netflix. So the title is A House of Dynamite, and that literally comes from a podcast, apparently. That's what they say in the film, but it's the idea of nuclear weapons. Then we'll start with the fast flicks, where we do a quick little summary of what the film's all about. So this one, it's about the countdown that begins for a nuclear attack on America and the different things that happen in such a situation. And that's what it's about. It's about that tinderbox almost, or this house of dynamite of what would happen if someone actually released a nuclear warhead. In French, the film's called an explosive situation. In Hungarian, it's called a tense situation. And in Portuguese, it's called about to explode. So it all ties into that same idea. We go back to May of 2024, where it was announced that Kathryn Bigelow would be directing a thriller film for Netflix, her first feature film since Detroit in 2017. In June of 2024, Idris Elba, Rebecca Ferguson, Gabriel Basson, Harris and Greta Lee joined the cast, and throughout August, September and October, further cast were announced. On October 24th of 2024, it was reported that filming had begun in Trenton, New Jersey, and in early December, it was reported that the film had moved into post-production. We go to June of 2025, where the film's title was revealed to be A House of Dynamite, with the film scheduled to be given a limited theatrical release in the United States in October of 2025 before streaming on Netflix at the end of October. In August of 2025, it was also announced that the film would be released in select theatres in the United Kingdom and other locations around the world from October 3rd. The narration for the trailer of the film is actually an astronomer and anti-nuclear weapon activist called Carl Sagan, and he's reading from the audiobook recording of his 1994 book called Pale Blue Dot. There you go. Interesting. Once the film was released, a document from the US government's Department of Defense labeled only for internal MDA and Department of War use and not public releasable was released on October 16th, and it was meant to make sure that the agency leadership had situational awareness and was not surprised by the topic of the film, which may come up in conversations or meetings. This being that the defense missiles in the film have a better rate at taking them out. The defense minister, or the defense missiles, the American government believes that the statistics depicted in the film are not accurate, and they're worried about that. So that's where that's from. Bigelow, the director, she said that she didn't seek cooperation. I can't put my words together today. I'm feeling it. Bigelow, the director, she didn't seek cooperation from the Pentagon in making the film. She said, "I felt that we needed to be more independent," she told CBS. But that being said, we had multiple tech advisors who had worked in the Pentagon. They were with me every day we shot. For Bigelow, and this is a spoiler, so again, if you haven't seen the film, give us a pause, but the film's unresolved ending is an invitation. She said, "I want audiences to leave theaters thinking, okay, what do we do now?" She said, "This is a global issue, and of course, I hope against hope that maybe we reduce the nuclear stockpile someday. But in the meantime, we really are living in a house of dynamite. I felt it was so important to get that information out there so we could start a conversation. That's the explosion we're interested in, the conversation people have about the film afterwards." There we go. The other side fact from this one, at the start of the film, the Netflix logo, it's a little bit different. It's a bit slow to arrive over the screen, and it plays out over strings. It was very different introduction to the film. This did debut at the Venice Film Festival on the 2nd of September 2025. It played the Busan International Film Festival from the 21st of September. It played at the New York Film Festival from the 28th of September. And then it had that limited theatrical release in the UK from the 3rd of October and the rest of the world after that, before hitting Netflix worldwide on the 24th of October 2025. The filming locations mentioned before, New Jersey, also Alaska and Washington, D.C., but apparently there's some scenes with the First Lady, and they were actually done in Kenya as well, so that's pretty cool too. Awards. So far, this film has been nominated for the Golden Lion at Venice, for Special Achievement in Screenwriting at the Middleborough Film Festival, and Anthony Ramos at the Celebration of Cinema and Television Awards for Best Supporting Actor. So a couple of nominations there. It may have some more as we head into more award seasons in the back end and the start of next year too. What are the critics and audiences saying about this film? Here we go. On Rotten Tomatoes, it sits at 78%. That's on 207 reviews from critics. That's a lot. That's fresh, and that's definitely certified as well. Audience, pretty much the same, 77%. That's on more than 100 ratings. So again, solid. IMDb, it's very solid again. 6.5 out of 10 on 43,000 ratings. Letterboxd, a little bit lower, 3 out of 5 on 100,000 ratings. That's so many ratings, and it's been logged by 116,000 people. They are some big numbers for a film, as recording has only been out for about a week. Metacritic, the traffic light system of red, yellow, and green. It sits green for critics. It's at a 75 out of 100 on 50 critic reviews. That's super high. And the audience at a 5.5 out of 10 on 155 reviews. So that one is yellow. So critics enjoying this probably more so than audiences would be my summary of that there. What are my early thoughts on this one? It's an interesting film. I think I can see why some audience members may dislike the film. Like the narrative elements, they're definitely interesting and something worth discussing, which we probably will. And I guess the closure of the film may not bring together what some people would expect from a film like this. That's maybe why it's a little bit off-putting. But I think in the precursor before I spoke about why Bigelow wanted that ambiguous ending. Let's talk about the characters. Let's talk about some characters. This is tricky. Overall in the film, you'd say there's very little to know about the characters. There are so many characters. This is an ensemble cast, and these are all people that are involved at various stages throughout this 18 minutes or so of countdown until a nuclear weapon lands in America. So Olivia's the one we're first introduced to, and I guess she's the main protagonist of the film. She's got a husband, a child, and the kid during these events is sick, so the dad's with the kid, and this makes her being away from her family during such a stressful time, I guess, even more stressful. I think she's like a captain in this White House Situation Room and sort of takes over and takes control in the first part. I guess I got to talk about the structure of the film. It's like we see the same event 3 times with different perspectives throughout. So Jake is another character we see from his perspective, and we see him first in the car with his pregnant wife ready to go to work, and he has to jump out of the car because he's stepping in for his boss. And this is probably going to be Jake's biggest day of his life, to be honest, because he's got a lot of important information to share and some joint decisions to make as well. We then spoke about Baker. Baker's the Secretary of Defense who takes up the third section of the film with the president. He's dealing with the loss of his wife, the fact that his daughter lives in Chicago where the bomb's going to hit, and I think he's got a bit of a conflicting relationship with his daughter as well. And I think these issues throw him off focus a lot during the 18 stressful minutes that we see his story. And I guess he's got nothing left to live for, and I think is the only on-screen death in this film, which is interesting for a nuclear war thriller. And that's obviously a purposeful choice from Bigelow and the creators, in that the focus in this film isn't on violence or death or blood like has been in some of her previous films, but this one's about that tension that's created throughout. Gonzalez is another character we see. He's one of the first characters we see too. He seems to be a little bit on the rocks with his wife. She wants him home. He says something about, 6 months to go. And he takes this, I guess, disagreement with his wife out on his team at the start, who are just about to make some of the biggest decisions and actions of their lives. And that's a very stressful situation that they're all in too. A few other side characters. There's this chick called Kathy who works at FEMA. Doesn't have much to do. The same with Reeves. He's this naval officer who keeps the president company at all times. I guess he's lent on pretty heavily to help some big decisions with the president at the end of the film too. We have Miller, who's Walker's boss, and he's evacuated from the Situation Room, which leaves her in charge, Olivia Walker. We've also got Brady, I think his name was. He was like this gung-ho military man who wants a preemptive strike. Abby's this little side character, I think a press representative in the press room, and she sort of sits there too. And then we do see the president at the back end as well, and his wife's in Kenya on safari, and his one job for the day is meant to be this meet and greet with some kids at a basketball event, and obviously the day turns into something else as well. And Officer Davis literally there just to show us at stages that he's got a girlfriend on his phone, I think, to add some human element. But apart from that, there's no real development from these characters, so it's an interesting way to do this. Anyway, let's continue on. The director, Kathryn Bigelow. Most people would know Kathryn Bigelow. Obviously, Best Picture winning film Hurt Locker, but also directed Zero Dark 30, which was nominated for Best Picture as well as directing the films Detroit, Point Blank, Blue Steel. Had a relationship with James Cameron at one stage as well, so very, very famous. And this is a film that ties in with a lot of the previous work that she's done too. Scenes. What are some scenes that stood out? What didn't work? This is a tricky one. I found it really hard to actually talk about certain scenes because the film it's 18 minutes that we see 3 times from 3 different perspectives. But the human elements throughout, I thought they were good. There were some shots of kids doing a White House tour playing soccer just to add that human element. So I thought that was good. The idea of a dead list sort of shocked me, I guess, when they make a list of everyone's numbers and names. So if the building gets taken out, they know who was there. I thought that was interesting. This was probably a little bit on the nose too, but there's a Gettysburg Civil War reenactment. I thought, yes, it was on the nose, but I think it was a good contrast between the idea of glorifying or celebrating war and remembering war and what was actually happening at the time as well. So yes, on the nose, but I didn't mind it. Things that didn't necessarily work, I think I've got to whack that multiple storyline almost. It felt sloppy. It slowed the film down a bit, almost made it a little bit repetitive too. And not much happened if it was an 18-minute, yeah, so that sort of frustrated me too. And the Angel Reese basketball scene, I appreciated that it was almost a reflection of George Bush when 9/11 happened and he was in a classroom with kids reading a book, but that scene felt not needed because we're into the third act of the film where we already have worked out after the first act that we're seeing the same thing happen again, so we know what's going to happen with the president. We know he's going to have to leave, and I don't know, I'm not sure if it was needed. Some themes, some ideas in this film. What was the film trying to say? I think the idea, obviously, about making impossible decisions in the most extreme circumstances possible. So much pressure in these moments and making the right or wrong call. That's felt throughout, and I did feel tense throughout this whole film. It was well done. The idea, too, that the Cold War, it's not over. The US still has over 12,000 nuclear missiles, and there's 8 other countries that have them as well. And the villain of the film, I guess, is nuclear proliferation itself. And there's that question of preemptive action. Is this ever the right choice? Because the power of one person with a hand on a trigger or a button is hard, especially if you're looking at self-preservation as well. And the innocence and the youth, I think that played throughout quite well. It starts off with Olivia and her kid at home has this little toy. I think it was a dinosaur that she takes to work, puts it on her desk, as well as, and again, this shot probably wasn't needed, the soldiers who are about to get onto the aeroplanes and almost do a kamikaze mission. I think they're in the change room, and we can see that whatever post they're on, one of the guys has been buying toys for his kids, and they sort of fall on the floor to highlight that idea of what's actually going to happen if this bomb does hit America. And the title, I said it before, The House Filled with Dynamite, it all ties in. What else did I take away from this film? Idris Elba. This is an interesting casting choice. Most people in Australia would know him as a British actor playing Luther. He's obviously been in The Wire. He's been in a whole bunch of other stuff, but you've got a British actor playing not only a black American president, but almost it's almost like an alien quotation marks because he's not American. So I thought it was a very interesting choice that you'd cast an African-American. Well, he's not African-American. You cast a black British actor in the role. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like that there's probably a lot of American actors, and there's some other British people in this main cast too. Why are we making such an American-centric story and casting British, especially in the role of president? I thought that was interesting. We have a segment sometimes, IMDb. If we jump on to look something up, check someone out. I didn't have to jump on for this, but as soon as I saw the character come on the screen, this character Jake, I was like, that's J.D. Vance from the film we did on this show called the episode we did for the film called Hillbilly Elegy. And I was like, and that sort of stuck in my head a bit that it was like J.D. Vance was in this film. It was weird, but he does a good job as Jake in this. I thought that was very interesting. I did look up Baker's daughter. She's on the screen for one scene where she pretty much tells him we need to do counseling or something. And I was like, I know that. That's a very familiar face. The actress's name is Caitlin Dever. And I think I recognize her from the film Booksmart. I'm pretty sure that's what she's from. And the other thing, I had to check out in one of the bunkers at some stage, they're talking about, did you watch the baseball last night? And it talked about Lindor having a great game. Couldn't even think of who he was. Had to look him up, Mets player. So I felt a bit disappointed in myself that I didn't make that connection. Some questions, some pondering, some thoughts, some ideas to finish off. I think, like, if you think about the real world and real situations, is America actually prepared for a situation like this? So it's an interesting thought, isn't it? Like, if all these situations and scenarios are right and they do have all these weapons, surely they could protect themselves, but you never know. Nuclear weapons are so dangerous. I think that's very interesting. And I didn't actually see this, but there are people online who have said that, and I always watch films with the subtitles on anyway, but some people say at the end of the credits in the subtitles, it just says in text explosion, meaning the bomb landed. I thought that was interesting. I watched it. I didn't see it. So some people said they saw it. I'm not sure if it's been taken out, but that was interesting. And if you're in the cinema and the subtitles aren't on, you're not going to see that subtitle anyway. So I thought that was an interesting little thing I read online. The idea of being a president too, like having to make that decision of whether you react or you don't. And I don't know, I guess that's the idea of how do you become a great leader? How do you make the right choices? And what is the right choice in this situation? Because it's a very difficult question to answer. And the idea to find, like Russians, there's the Russian politician in this film that's saying that we've had nothing to do with this. Do you believe him? I'm not sure. Like, are you supposed to believe the Russian? And then in saying that too, the Russian guy says it's not the Chinese, or are they all lying to each other? And that's what politics is about, is not being truthful. So interesting little thing too. But I'm ready to wrap this one up. We give the film a rating out of 5 on this show. I think, like, I'm not sold on the 3 versions of the one event coming together. Once the first part's done, which was very good, it takes a lot of momentum away from the film when you know you're just going to see the same things again. However, the tension was still there throughout the film, and some good performances, and I think probably a gutsy ending in the fact that we fade to black and don't know whether the bomb actually landed or not. So I'm giving this a 3.5 out of 5. An okay score for me, pretty solid score. We're on socials. We have Facebook, we have Instagram, and we have X, formerly known as Twitter. The question I wanted to ask is, do you think Chicago was hit at the end of this film? I'm intrigued. I think so. I think it's very unlikely that the missile malfunctions and it doesn't explode, especially with, I don't know. I think that's what you're supposed to take away from it. But obviously, people have different interpretations. So if you think differently, please do let me know in the comments of the show. Other than that, we are back on Monday with our regular episode. 475 plus episodes altogether. I'm sure there's a Netflix film we've done that you've seen or heard, so please do jump on board, download an episode, have a listen, have a like, and we'll see you on Monday.